Hello everybody and welcome to Jerez, ready for the second race of the Euroformula Open weekend here in Andalusia. This qualifying session for the 14th race of the season. As you join myself, Ben Evans, on a beautiful day here once more, and the cars taking to the track for this 30-minute session. Well, yesterday's race was claimed for the 11th time this season by Harrison Scott, the British driver, the champion for this year, of course, negotiating two safety car periods to take the victory ahead of Devlin De Francesco and Nikita Troitsky. However, it was a thoroughly entertaining race with plenty of battling to be found throughout the field. But unfortunately for the man we're currently watching, Ludovico Laurini, it was a fairly short race. The Italian tangling with Thiago Vivacqua on the first lap and prompting our first safety car. We then lost Petru Florescu and Daniel Liu late on, and that gave us a second safety car with the Chinese driver Liu stuck in the gravel. Well, the way that we would anticipate this qualifying session to unfold is that this first series of laps, the first 4 or 5 laps, will be on a used set of Michelin tyres, and then they will pit in mid-session, having dialed the car in, having dialed themselves in, and then we'll see the second half of the session with the times that will form the grid. Yesterday, that didn't quite go to form because we had a red flag with just shy of 4 minutes remaining in the session after Pedro Cardoso rotated his Teo Martin Motorsport car as he came out of turn 5, and that meant that a lot of drivers on quick laps lost the opportunity to improve. So what will today bring? Well, for Harrison Scott, the possibility of a 12th victory of the season. Scott, who has been in absolutely imperious form all year, took the title last weekend in Monza and is now looking to see if he can win the remaining races of the campaign. There are others, however, of course, who are looking to try and overhaul him. The other victories this year have gone to Amaya Vaidonathan and Thiago Vivacqua, but Devlin De Francesco, Nikita Troitsky, both looking for their maiden victories. Vaidonathan was looking very impressive yesterday en route to 4th, and so he could be another of those drivers who could score a second win of the year. Harrison Scott heading out of turn 4 towards turn 5, this Jerez circuit. A much tighter, twistier proposition than the high-speed sweeps of Monza that they raced on last weekend. The longest straight being the section of circuit that Scott currently navigates, just 600 metres or so down the back straight towards the hairpin at turn 6, with then Pedro Cardoso running on the road just behind him. Scott backs off, allows Cardoso to sprint through. Therefore, because there aren't those long straights, there isn't the same slipstreaming opportunity, which can make overtaking somewhat challenging. That said, yesterday we did see a good number of passing manoeuvres throughout the field. And the race had some ongoing tussles, not least those involving Simo Laaksonen, who qualified well up the grid, didn't make a great start, but then recovered magnificently, enjoyed a good scrap with Ben Hingley, and then also demoting Alex Karkozic late on. It's Pedro Cardoso coming through to the end of the lap. See where this puts him in the overall scheme of things. It's the quickest time of the session, a 1 minute 38.9, but that doesn't really tell us an awful lot. Yesterday, the pole position mark was in the high 1 minute 35-second bracket from Harrison Scott. But both the Teo Martin Motorsport cars have shown a good degree of pace this weekend. Cardoso having a pretty rough day of it yesterday after that spin that prompted the red flag, and then the car, despite the very best efforts of the mechanics, wasn't really quite to Cardoso's liking in the race, and unfortunately he had to retire fairly early on. Vaidonathan now goes quicker and goes to the top of the times, 1 minute 38.1 for the Indian. Cardoso in second, Daniel Liu third. Vortex Ben Hingley in fourth, Daniel Panenko in the second of the BVM cars alongside Daniel Liu in fifth. Let's watch the Senna chicane, which has just been exited by Cameron Das. one of the quartet of drivers representing the Campos team this weekend, as the American accelerates out of the final hairpin. Sprints through. It's not a bad lap this from Das as he crosses the line. Goes quickest, in fact, 1 minute 37.5 from the American. So he just starts to elevate the pace, runs out right to the very periphery of the curbs. And again, coming out of turn 2. And this is really what the drivers can use the first half of this session for, is just testing the track limits and where the grip is, but also learning on each and every lap where can they find an extra couple of hundredths of a second, where can they just try something a little bit different, see if it works out for them. Stas accelerates down the back straight, gets on the brakes. He's now been demoted to second. Simo Laxonen, his teammate, has gone quickest, 1 minute 37.4 from Laxonen. Pedro Cardoso then up into third, improving on his last lap. Petru Threscu's gone fourth. Meir Weidenheithen into fifth. And this another good lap from Cameron Das. Only needs to find 900ths of a second. Although teammate Laxonen is also on a personal best. So the American accelerates out of the centre chicane, round the back of the paddock area, on towards the left-hand hairpin. He's got Ben Hingley on the road in front of him. He closes up onto the tail of Hingley, accelerates out of the hairpin, picks up the throttle, across the line, and Cameron Das goes quickest, 1 minute 37.3. Jenny Fitcher now up into second, but here comes Harrison Scott, who somewhat inevitably is quickest of anybody through sector 2. And this has just so often been the case this year that Scott, certainly over the last 3 events or so, has always been able to consistently be several tenths clear of all his rivals through qualifying. See what time Harrison Scott can provide. It's looking like a good one. 1 minute 36.1 from Scott, 9/10 of a second quicker than the rest of the field. In car with Lodovico Laurini as he flashes across the line, and that lap good enough to go into 13th place. Italian through turns 1 and 2. Christian Hahn, meanwhile, through the final sector of the lap, he is being pursued by Lazo Martinez. Martinez put in a really impressive performance in yesterday's race. And the Spaniard, if he stays in the championship for next year, I think could be one to watch in terms of possibly pushing for the title. The same could be said for Simo Laxonen. The Finnish driver has been getting better and better with each event and showed great qualifying pace yesterday. He will have been frustrated with his start, but some brilliant racecraft as well. And Laxonen possibly on the cusp of an improvement. He's coming towards the end of the second sector, which he completes in 63.0. It's not quite as fast as Harrison Scott's best, but it could serve to reduce the gap between first and second in the session as Laxonen accelerates on towards the hairpin and the end of the lap. Through the hairpin, picks up the throttle. I don't think he's going to be delayed or indeed get any benefit in the toe behind Pedro Cardoso as Laxonen breaks the timing beam, and indeed he does improve his time, a 1 minute 36.8, and that brings him 6.5 tenths of a second adrift of Harrison Scott. Thiago Vivacqua, meanwhile, has just gone third. Vivacqua, one race victory to his credit, which came at the Hungaroring. Frustrating day yesterday, a lap 1 retirement, tangling with Lodovico Laurini. And Vivacqua was one of those drivers who really lost out with the red flag, being on his best run at the time. Didn't, of course, get to complete the lap, and that left him some 15th, down 15th on the grid, with a lot of ground to try and make up. Vivacqua pursuing Alex Karkozik down the back stretch, and this a good first sector for Thiago Vivacqua. He's just been shuffled to 4th overall. with Devlin DeFrancesco leaping up into third position. As I say, these times from the first phase of the session likely to be bettered once they've pitted in for some new rubber. But at the same time, it's a good indicator of who's got the car working. And we saw yesterday the field was so close. The top 19 cars separated by under 2 seconds in qualifying, but really second through to 19th, covered by just 1.4 seconds. Very, very little in it. Vivacqua, not such a good middle sector. It's still going to be a reasonably good lap, this, though, from Thiago Vivacqua's. Nikita Troitsky is also looking to try and make some improvements. He is being pursued by Devlin DeFrancesco. As DeFrancesco, 63.4, as he comes out of the second sector. Still some way adrift of Harrison Scott. See if he can stay within a second of Scott's mark. Accelerating towards the end of the lap. Vivacqua, by the way, didn't improve his time and has slipped to 5th behind Amir Vaidyanathan, who's just posted his best, as DeFrancesco accelerates through. Crosses the line now and improves his time, only fractionally though, 1 minute 37.2, but remains in third position, just 0.03 of a second up on teammate Vaidyanathan. Here is the Indian driver, Amir Vaidyanathan, victorious in Spa-Francorchamps back in May, but really pushing hard this weekend. Slightly frustrating time of it in Monza, culminating in a coming together with Tarun Reddy late on in race 2. But he still holds on to third in the championship, netted a solid points haul yesterday, and he will be aiming to get himself back onto the podium. He's not yet been on the rostrum in the second half of the season. As he navigates the Senna chicane, if Vaidyanathan can find just 0.03 of a second on this lap, he's going to head into the mid-session pause in third place, but instead he heads into the mid-session pause anyway. And so the bulk of the field now in the pit lane. This is when we'll see any late setup tweaks, new tyres going on the car, and then they'll be pushing on. So the classification, Harrison Scott fastest from Simalaxon in second. Devlin DeFrancesco is third, ahead of Amir Vaidyanathan. Thiago Vivacqua 5th from Yanni Fitcher. Alex Karkozik in 7th. Cameron Das up in 8th. Eliseo Martinez 9th. Lodovico Laurini completing the top 10. Heading Nikita Troitsky in 11th position. Matteo Siorio 12th. Tarun Reddy 13th. From Petru Frescu 14th. Pedro Cardoso next along in 15th. From Christian Hahn. Guilherme Samaya with Daniel Pranenko, Daniel Liu and Ben Hingley completing the classification. It appears if there is some rear anti-roll bar work ongoing as the DriveX team get to work bolting on a new set of Michelin tyres for Tarun Reddy. Christian Hahn peels into position as well. Just some advice and discussion ongoing for the Indian driver in the car. What's working, what's not, and often for these drivers just to do a run of a few laps, then come in, have a little bit of a think about what's working, what could be improved on. That can make all the difference in the second half of the session. Swan goes the tyre for Amir Vaidyanathan. Concentrated in the cockpit. The whole field now into the pit lane. It's Nikita Troitsky. Debriefs. Discusses how the car's feeling. Considers any changes. Matteo Siorio wheeled into position as well. The Brazilian just in 12th from the first half of the session. It's not been the easiest of seasons, this, for Matteo Siorio. A podium in the opening race of the year, but thereafter, a fair amount of bad luck, quite a few incidents along the way. Campos team Nonetheless, a well-oiled routine. They know exactly what to do in this mid-session pause, and they'll probably all stay in the pits for another 4 minutes or thereabouts, then head out with about 10 minutes to go, and it will be 1, maybe 2 out laps, and then they will get 2 or 3 runs of the flying lap with the heat cycle of the tyre at its absolute best. That's where finding the track position is going to be absolutely key, making sure they don't get caught with somebody on an out lap or somebody slowing down for an in lap. It's where they've really got to leave it all out there and hope that we don't get a red flag interruption to the session like we had yesterday with that big spin for Pedro Cardoso. Following on from this weekend, there's just one event of the Euroformula Open season to go. That's the last weekend of October in the Barcelona-Catalunya circuit. Another very different challenge for the drivers in the Euroformula Open season, which does take them to a great variety of circuits. Kita Troitsky still just focused on the job ahead in the pit lane. Same for Simo Laaksonen. Laaksonen, almost 7/10 adrift of Harrison Scott, but at the same time, best part of 4/10 of a second clear of Devlin De Francesco. As front wing adjustment ongoing for Tarun Reddy. And the teams have had exactly a year to run with this front wing configuration of on the Dallara F312, because it was introduced here for the very first time in Jerez last season. Cameron Dass also just waiting now for the signal to rejoin the session. The challenge being, of course, you go out too early, you'll potentially get caught with other cars on their out laps as you're trying to post a flying lap, and likewise, the time that you'll set will then be a benchmark for others to try and beat. Also adjustments to the front wing of the car of Cameron Dass, or rather Christian Hahn. Iorio fully focused on the job ahead. Already it's a warm day in the Spanish sunshine here in Jerez. Yesterday's race taking place just shy of 30 degrees ambient temperature. Now that is a slightly more substantive change for Daniel Liu, as the seat insert gets removed and then the Chinese will get strapped back into the car. But this slightly frustrating session for Liu. He's currently in 19th position, was 2.3 seconds off the pace in the first half of the session. Clearly some sort of work ongoing. As now the seat gets dropped back into position, the Chinese driver will be able to hop into the cockpit and resume the session. You just don't want any distractions like this. At the same time, they want the car to be working as well as it possibly can do. So getting towards the end of this mid-session hiatus, we'd probably be expecting to see the first couple of cars venturing out momentarily. It's the second of the BVM entries of Daniil Pronenko, not being the easiest of seasons this for the Russian driver. And yesterday was a difficult day once more. Frustrating qualifying session, left him with a lot to do in the race. He was in the thick of the action throughout, but again, outside the points. So everybody paused and poised in the pits. Yesterday it was Guillaume Samar and Christian Hahn who were the first to venture out onto the track, but for Guillaume Samar, the challenge of that became immediately apparent when he got caught up behind cars, slightly slower cars, on his flying laps as they were emerging from the pits. Devlin De Francesco had a very solid race yesterday, was able to stay with Harrison Scott on both of the restarts. That secured second position for him, also made sure that he claimed the rookie victory. Still a fair amount of ground to make up, though, for De Francesco in the rookie championship. He's currently third in the standings, 32 points adrift in the Kita Troitsky. in the overall championship. Nikita Troitsky is second and is the best part of 40 points clear of Amir Vaidyanathan, who is in third. But Vaidyanathan, in turn, has only got a 6-point advantage over Yanni Fitcher in fourth. And Devlin De Francesco is only a further 8 points adrift of Yanni Fitcher. So that fight for third in the standings is certainly going to be worth watching for over the next few races as Ben Hingley emerges from the pit lane. Hingley joining the Fortec team for the second half of the season. Then we have got Christian Hahn and Daniel Pranenko taking to the circuit. So now this is when we start to get to really the shootout phase of the session, when everybody goes for the lap times that are going to form the grid for this afternoon's race. Harrison Scott also well up in the queue. Will Scott be able to make it another podium? It has been an incredible run of pole positions as well for Harrison Scott. He's not been off pole since the second race at the Hungaroring, and he was on pole in both races at Paul Ricard. It's only been on 3 occasions this year when Harrison Scott has not started from pole. Just shows how dominant the Britain season has been. So will this be another pole position for Harrison Scott? The whole field now taking to the track. 8 1/4 minutes to run. Nikita Troitsky, for a while yesterday, looked as if the Russian was going to be starting from pole position, because Scott's best time was initially set behind the red flag, but he was able to go back out in the remainder of the session and post near identical time that was sufficient to give him pole. While Daniel Pranenko on the far side of the circuit, just warming up the Michelin tyre. Very strict rules, of course, for the drivers about weaving and not being too explicit about warming the tyre. They're not allowed to zigzag around the track. Instead, they get the heat just by the lateral forces through the tyre, through the turns, as Hingley accelerates through. He's got a clear track in front of him here, Ben Hingley. It's unlikely that this lap is going to be a flying lap, but the one after certainly will be, as Hingley negotiates turn 1. What we've seen so far in the 5 races in which Ben Hingley has contested is a superb maturity and racecraft from Hingley. He's always able to make good progress up through the field. Yesterday was a pretty tough race for him because he had a setup that just seemed to go away from him as the race unfolded. And Nikita Troitsky well poised to push when he's ready, because he's got, again, completely empty track surrounding him. And Hingley not as yet on the pace through the first sector, so it's going to be really the lap after this one as Alex Karkozik accelerates through. Karkozik having a very solid second half to the season. Real step up in performance from Silverstone onwards, although a lot of qualifying potential as well at the Hungaroring. And again, can he improve on 7th from the first phase of the session? The sun glints off the RP Motorsport car, accelerates through turn 5. Now we're starting to see a few improvements coming together. Pedro Cardoso and Daniel Pranenko both on good laps. Ben Hingley trying to post improved time as well. Daniel Liu also looking to make an improvement. We are currently following the progress of Eliseo Martinez. Martinez unlikely to improve on the course of this lap. Amir Vaidyanathan warming up for a quick lap, and Vaidyanathan quick through sector 1. So the Indian could be worth keeping track of. Cameron Das was on a good lap until he got caught behind Eliseo Martinez, so frustrating for the American. His hopes of improvement whittled away in that moment. Ben Hingley also on a good lap again. Meanwhile, Daniel Pranenko, he's improved up into 11th. He's on another quick lap. Cameron Dass had been going well, got caught in traffic, so he has got to wind up for another attack, which he does now. Meanwhile, Harrison Scott absolutely flying through the first sector, so Scott on course to set the new benchmark, half a second up on Cyril Laxton just through sector 1, Harrison Scott. And here is the champion. Scott using every inch of the road as he is in the middle sector of the lap. The brace of left-handers into the sequence of rights that will feed him into the centre chicane. A 62.0 through the first sector. This potentially going to be an absolutely phenomenal lap from Harrison Scott. Ben Hingley, meanwhile, has gone second with a 1 minute 36.6. Christian Hahn then improves to second, but Scott is going to be somewhere in the 1 minute 35s, if not even a little bit below that, as he accelerates out of the final hairpin through to complete the lap. And this has been a good run from Scott. Across line he comes, a 1 minute 35.2 for Scott. So that is the benchmark for the rest of them to beat. It puts him 1.3 seconds up on the rest of the field. Laxton's gone through and gone second with a 1 minute 36.1. It's Christian Hahn then in third, Hingley fourth. No, it's not. Yanni Fitcher goes second at 1 minute 35.8. So now the improvement's starting to fly. And the Mayor Vaidyanathan is on a good lap. He's just come out of the second sector with a 62.3. Cameron Dass, 62.8. Eliseo Martinez, a 62.4. Martinez goes third. So Eliseo Martinez, a 1 minute 35.8. Impressive run from the Spaniard. He goes third. So it's Scott, Fitcher, Martinez, Laxonen. Vaidyanathan is where we're likely to see a big improvement. And Nikita Troitsky also having a good lap as well. We're still with Christian Hahn, who is going to set an improved time here. But he, over the course of this lap, has shuffled down to 9th position. He heads through the final hairpin. Mayor Vaidyanathan had to back out of his quick lap, so he remains in 16th. Teammate De Francesco in 17th, as Hahn flashes through and actually doesn't quite improve on that lap. Nikita Troitsky, meanwhile, has gone up to 4th. We're with Yanni Fitcher, but Fitcher not going to improve on this lap. Petru Florescu, however, is on a reasonably good one. He is in the middle of the third sector, possibly coming through to the end of the lap, just ahead of Yanni Fitcher on the road as the German accelerates out of the final hairpin. He's got Matheus Iorio behind him. So across the line they flash. Fitcher doesn't improve. He's got clear track now to push on for another lap. Nikita Troitsky looking to find some more improvement. Iorio didn't improve. Florescu did. He went 6th. So with 1.5 minutes to run, it's Scott, Fitcher, Martinez, Troitsky, Laxonen, Florescu. Cameron Dass in 7th, Karkozic in 8th, Iorio 9th, Christian Hahn in 10th. That changes. Devlin De Francesco goes second, a 1 minute 35.7. Still, though, half a second adrift of Harrison Scott, and they're now all into effectively the final lap of the session. Yanni Fitcher to the end of the first sector, and it's not looking like it's going to be an improvement for the German either. And the way that this session has unfolded, it's suggesting they're only really getting 1, maybe 2 flying laps out of the tyre. Florescu looking to make an improvement. Here is De Francesco, who's just been shuffled to 3rd. Nikita Troitsky has gone 2nd once more. So the Russian looking like another front row start for him, as Harrison Scott is into the pits. His job is done. He's 4/10 clear of Troitsky, half a second clear of De Francesco. And the Canadian is going to see the checker flag at the end of this lap, and it's unlikely that it's going to be an improvement for Devlin De Francesco. Alex Karkozic potentially on the cusp of an improvement. Vaidyanathan has gone 7th as the checker flag comes out now, but we've still got everybody bar Harrison Scott circulating. So how is this all going to shake out? as De Francesco accelerates towards the checkered flag. If he can find the 10th of a second, he's going to go onto the front row of the grid. And he can't quite do it. It's a 1 minute 36.0. Now here is Nikita Troitsky. And barring some very late and dramatic improvements, it is looking as if Troitsky is going to be lining up from second on the grid. Accelerating through to the checkered flag behind Guilherme Samaya. And Troitsky doesn't quite improve on that last lap. Handshakes and congratulations from Harrison Scott. Another pole position. The domination continues. Now the improvement may come late on here from Simo Laaksonen. Laaksonen in the Campbell's car. He's in the middle of the third sector now, and he's done a very good middle sector, a 62.6. If he can find a couple of tenths, that's going to be enough to propel him up the order. He's probably the only driver who's looking likely to make an improvement. Troitsky tours back to the pits. Laaksonen flashes through, doesn't improve. So as the field takes the checkered flag, the order would appear to have been set with pole position for Harrison Scott. Nikita Troitsky taking second position for the Drovex team. Devlin Di Francesco to third ahead of Yanni Fittia. Eliseo Martinez well up again in fifth from Simo Laaksonen. So a fascinating race in prospect later on today. We get underway with our coverage at 12:20 local time. Here is a run down the classification. Pole for Scott by 0.4 of a second from Nikita Troitsky. Then it's Devlin Di Francesco and Yanni Fittia, a very strong row 2 from Eliseo Martinez and Simo Laaksonen on row 3. Alex Karkozic and Amir Vardanathan look to progress from the 4th row with Petru Florescu and Cameron Das well up inside the top 10 to complete row 5. Look at the second half of the field with Tarun Reddy, a strong drive to 11th from Matthias Iorio. Christian Hahn also shown brightly for the Drovex team in 13th. Ben Hingley, a disappointing session for him to be in 14th. Thiago Vivacqua starting from 15th once more, alongside compatriot Guilherme Samaya. Pedro Cardoso in 17th from Daniel Liu, with Lodovico Laurini and Daniel Pronenko both struggling to progress late on in the session, so they will complete the grid. So we will be going racing at around about 12:30 local time here in Jerez. Until then, from Ben Evans, it's goodbye from Spain.